This video is on comparing and ordering integers. Let's start by reviewing some vocabulary. What is an integer? Well, let's start by looking at whole numbers. Right? Whole numbers are the counting numbers: 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. Right? Integers are the whole numbers and their opposites. So if I look at the number line here, here's the number 1. Its opposite is on the other side, or -1. 2, and its opposite is -2. So integers are the whole numbers and their opposites. There are both negative and positive integers. Our positive integers are all to the right of 0. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And our negative integers are all to the left: -1, -2, -3, -4, -5, -6, and so on. Both of these continue. Now let's think about this using a real life example. So let's say I have a mountain, and then I have the sea. If I wanted to climb the mountain, I might measure the miles using positive integers. It's kind of like my number line on its side. So let's say this is 5 miles, 10 miles, and so on. When I get to sea level, we're at 0. Now, to measure what's under the sea, for instance, if I had a shipwreck under the ocean and I wanted to measure the distance to the bottom of the ship, this would be measured in negative integers. So 5 miles, 10 miles, 15 miles. These are all negative integers, and -20 miles. So again, I have 0, the positive integer, and its opposite, the negative integer. So let's review. Integers are the whole numbers and their opposites. Negative integers are all the numbers to the left of 0. So I have -2 and -1. Those are examples of negative integers. Positive integers are all the numbers to the right of 0. So 1, 2, 3, and so on are all examples of positive integers. Now here's another definition: absolute value. The absolute value of a number is its distance from 0. So let's take the number 4. The absolute value is shown like this. So here I have the absolute value of 4. Well, what's 4's distance from 0? It's 4. What about -4? I'm looking for the absolute value of -4. What's 4's distance from 0? Well, it's also 4. Absolute value is a positive number because it reflects the distance of a number from 0. What would the absolute value of -6 be? Six, because it's 6 steps from 0 to -6. So that's the absolute value. And an example of absolute value could be the absolute value of numbers negative 6 is 6. Now opposites are different. Looking for a number and its opposite. Let's say I have the number 5 and I'm looking for its opposite. Well, its opposite would be found on the other side of the number line. So negative 5 would be the opposite of 5. So 5 and negative 5 are opposites. Negative 2 and 2 would be opposites. 3 and negative 3 would be opposites. So each of these are examples of opposites. Alright, now let's apply this by solving some problems. Alright, let's start by ordering integers. Alright, let's say I have a set of numbers negative 14, negative 11, negative 13, negative 9, negative 20, and negative 7. I'm going to draw a number line, and I'm going to graph my numbers. Alright, notice all my numbers are negative, so I'm going to put 0 over here because I don't need much room for positive numbers. Now instead of writing all the numbers from 1 to 20, I'm going to start with negative 2. This would be negative 4, negative 6, negative 8, negative 10, negative 12, negative 14, negative 16, negative 18, negative 20, and negative 22. So I'm not going to write every number because it gets too crowded. Alright, so let's graph this. Negative 7, where would that fall? Well, it would be right about here. So this is where negative 7 would fall. I'm going to make a little dot above the number line, and that's for negative 7. Negative 20. Well, negative 20 would be about here. So negative 20. Negative 9. Negative 9 would fall right before negative 10. So negative 9. Negative 13. Negative 11. And negative 14. Alright. Now if I look at the number line, let's say I want to order these from least to greatest. Alright, well, my least number is going to be farthest to the left from 0. So my smallest number would have been negative 20. Then it's negative 14, negative 13, negative 11, negative 9, and then my largest number would have been negative 7. So now I've ordered my numbers from least to greatest. Now let's take this one step further. Let's say that I want to compare two integers. Say I have the integer negative 9, and I want to compare it to the integer negative 17. Alright, well, negative 9 would fall here, and negative 17 would fall here. So that means that negative 17 is smaller than negative 9. So I'm going to use a greater than sign, and it reads negative 9 is greater than negative 17. Let's do another example. number 3. I have the number 15 and the number negative 18. Alright, let's make a number line. We'll mark 0. And let's say we have 5, 10, 15, 20, and then negative 5, negative 10, negative 15, and negative 20. Alright, well, negative 18 is going to fall in here, and 15 is right here. Right? Well, we can see that 15 is greater than negative 18. So this is how I would compare integers. Now let's look at absolute value. State the absolute value. So let's say I have a number, and this is how you would show your work. Let's say I have the number negative 73. Alright, I want to state the absolute value. Well, your first step is to write it out. This is how you would show finding the absolute value of 73. Well, the absolute value of 73, which is how far from 0 is negative 73, and it would be 73. And that would be my answer. Okay, let's try another one. What about 16? State the absolute value of 16. Well, I would notate it like this. 16's distance from 0 is 16. So that would be my answer. Alright, remember, the absolute value is the distance from 0. Alright. Let's state the opposite. Of a number. Now you should think of this as an operation. So for instance, if I have the number negative 98 and I want to state the opposite, I would write the opposite of negative 98. Notice here how the negative sign is high and the operation is in the middle. So for this problem, I'm saying the opposite of negative 98. Alright, remember it's going to be on the other side of the number line. So the opposite of negative 98 would be 98. That would be my answer. Alright, let's do another one of these. B. I have the number 45, and I need to find the opposite of 45. Notice I'm putting the number in parentheses. The opposite of 45 would be on the opposite side of the number line, which would give me negative 45. Notice how I'm notating it. Letter C. Negative 23. The opposite of negative 23, again, this is the operation, okay, would be 23. Now, problem number 6. Let's say I want to evaluate the expression when x equals -7. Right? In this situation, I'm going to substitute -7 for x. Alright? Let's start with the first problem, A. Let's say in this problem, I'm looking for the opposite of the variable x, and I'm going to find the absolute value of that. Remember to start by writing your variable expression, then substitute. So I'm going to use my absolute value symbol. I'm looking for the opposite of whatever x is, which is -7, and I'm going to put that in parentheses. Alright? So I'm going to solve what's inside the absolute value grouping symbols first. Well, the opposite of -7 would be the absolute value of 7. And the absolute value, or the distance from 0, of 7 is 7. So 7 is my answer. Problem B. I have the absolute value of the variable x plus 4. Again, I substitute the absolute value of -7 plus 4. Remember, I start by solving what's inside the grouping symbols. So the absolute value of -7 is 7, because that's its distance from 0, plus 4 gives me 11. C. 2 times the absolute value of x. Right? Notice that it's multiplication because there's no space here. So 2 times the absolute value of -7, because I'm going to substitute, becomes 2 times 7, because the first thing I want to do is solve what's in the grouping symbols. 2 times 7 is 14, and that's my answer. Right? Let's do a couple more. D. Let's say I have the absolute value of x minus 5. Alright? The absolute value of -7, because I'm going to start by substituting, minus 5. Once I'm substituting, now I can solve. The absolute value of -7 is 7, minus 5 gives me 2. E. The opposite of x minus 3. Alright, again, remember this is an operation. So I'm going to substitute -7 for x. So the opposite of -7 minus 3. Right? To solve that, the opposite of -7 is 7 minus 3, and my answer is 4. One last problem. F. The opposite of x plus 10. Right? That means I need to take the opposite of -7 and add it to 10. The opposite of -7 is 7, plus 10 gives me 17, and that's my answer. And this is the end of the video on comparing and ordering integers.